Hello friends, my name is Rob. This is BigRobsVan, and on today's video I am going to be testing and reviewing this AllPowers R2500 Power Station, which I bought and paid for with my own money. This is not a paid endorsement. This is a product that I did a lot of research on and purchased through Amazon. So if you are new to power stations or solar generators, this might be a good review to watch because I'm going to talk about some of the features and explain some of the terminology that goes with this, but don't worry, I won't get too technical. So sit back, relax, make yourself a bowl of popcorn, and let's get started talking about this. By the way, if you saw one of my videos earlier this year, I used a different power station to try to make popcorn in my van, and it didn't go great because my power station just didn't have enough power to run that air popper. But this is a big battery, and a big battery deserves a big popcorn machine. We'll get to that thing in just a minute. Now let's talk about what this unit is. This is the, again, AllPowers R2500. These are commonly referred to as power stations because they store a bunch of power. They used to be called solar generators. I think that was a marketing thing to market these as an alternative to gas generators, but it was a bad term because you don't have to use solar to charge this and it doesn't generate electricity at all. You can think of this as a big giant battery with a bunch of converters inside here that make it easier to get different types of electricity in and different voltages of electricity out. So let's talk about the ports that you're going to find. The ports on the front are probably the most important. So let's talk about those for just a second. Right off the bat here, we've got this big screen. It is probably not very readable in this direct sunlight that I'm recording right now, but great screen on this. I really like it. This gives you a lot of information. You're going to see on one side how much battery life is remaining, like what's your remaining charge. You're also going to see how many watts are coming in, and you'll also see how many watts are going out. And then underneath that, there is an estimate that shows you how much time this battery believes you have until you run out at the current state of use. All your different ports that you're going to plug things into are all located on the front. Right here you have 4 USB ports. You've got 2 USB-C, you've got 2 USB-A. The USB-C has a combined, or USB-C has a combined rating of 200 watts. I believe it's 100 watts each. So this is going to be good for charging a laptop, for a tablet, any of your USB stuff. But you know, most USB things, I mean, like a phone or whatever, are not going to use that much electricity. But if you have something like I said, like a laptop or a tablet, that's going to be able to be charged through these. Your USB-A is much lower. Again, you can charge phones, you know, older chargers. If you have USB-A stuff, any USB-A device, this is going to be able to handle. I think it has a combined rating of 30 watts. I don't know, I'm making that up, but whatever it is, I'll tell you below. But anyway, here's all your USB ports. Now, over here are your 12 volt output ports. You've got a normal 12 volt. When I was a kid, we called this a cigarette lighter adapter. Now, I guess they just call it a power outlet in a car, but this is 12 volt. I believe each one of these are 10 amps. You have 3, but you only have 1 in this form factor. Below here, you'll see these other 2, and they are in the smaller form factor. Now, here's a little bit of technical information for you real quick. These adapters on this battery are called, the outlet size is called a 5525. And what that means is it is 5.5 millimeters by 2.5 millimeters. Not all batteries are the same. I believe, don't quote me, I believe Jackery, at least on their earlier ones, use a 5521. It's slightly different and they don't necessarily interchange. So when I first got this, I was like, oh no, I can only use this big one. I don't have anything that plugs into these smaller ones. Well, first of all, you can buy adapters. I can't find them on Amazon, but there are lots of them online. If you just Google 5525 adapter. You will find adapters that will plug into these and have a 12 volt outlet on the other side. So you can use these other two just like you would use that one. That is a handy tip. The other thing you can purchase online is pre-wired ends that will plug into these that just have leads on the end. So if you want to make your own adapter, that's what I did with my Max Air fan. My Max Air fan runs off of 12 volt. I attached one of the adapters that will go into these ports instead of this port, because this one is so much more convenient. Anything that you're going to buy that uses, you know, for a car that's designed for 12 volt usage, like my refrigerator uses this. My CPAP has an outlet for this. So everything is going to be, you know, designed for this. So getting those adapters, I found the adapters online. They were like $7 each. I ordered two, so I have one for each of those ports. Good investment. Now, let's get down here to the 110 outlets. Now, for your car, you can buy a little, you know, adapter for the cigarette lighter adapter to get USB. So USB is easy to get in your car. 12 volt stuff is easy to get in your car. Running a 110 device in your car is not easy. You're gonna need an inverter or something like this. This has 4 110 outlets. You will see there's 2 on this side and there's 2 on the other side. I believe these are 20 amps each. Now, I'm standing behind the battery, and so I'm trying to do all this from memory, but if you were standing and looking on the front side of the battery, you will notice that all of the outlets tell you exactly how many amps, how many volts, all those things. So you don't have to remember all that stuff. It is written right there on the front. Now, in the middle is this mysterious, if I can reach this, outlet, which is kind of weird looking. This is, if you look on Amazon, it says this is a 30 amp outlet. If you look on the front, it says 20 amps. So I haven't actually tested this. I don't have a use for this type of outlet, but what this is for is if you have an RV with a 30 amp shore power inlet, you could take a cable and plug this into your RV and power your entire RV. Now, the advantage is you don't have to rewire and replug everything into this. You could just plug that all into that one outlet. I've never used it. I'll probably never use it, but it's interesting that it is there. Now, one of the things you'll notice when I was doing all my demos is that I'm lifting these little rubber tabs, and I've had things like this in the past, and usually what I do is immediately rip them off, but not on something like this, because what this does is it keeps the weather out of these little ports when you're not using them. It will keep dust out of them. It will keep water out of them, whatever that might get in these little ports. Also, in theory, it could keep little kids' fingers out of them. I don't have little kids, and if I did, I wouldn't let them play with this. But, you know, you might have things, you know, you might have a kid that's like, oh, look, this is the same size as my finger. I'm gonna stick my finger in there and see what happens. So anyway, you got all these little covers, but everything here is located on the front. Now, one other thing that you may or may not notice is that each of these sections has their own power button. So you could turn on and off the power to all the USB ports, to all the 12 volt ports, to all the 110 ports. A couple of the buttons have different functions. The USB one specifically has a second function that turns on and off Wi-Fi on this unit, and to do that you need to hold that button down for 3 seconds. I'll show you the Bluetooth connectivity in the app in just a minute. Let's talk about the other ports that are on this battery. On the right hand side you can see there are 2 ports here, and both of those ports are used to daisy chain this to other batteries. So if you don't have another giant battery that you're connecting this to, then you'll never use the ports on that side of this battery. But they are there, so this is expandable. If you wanted to buy, they sell additional units that don't have all the brains that are inside this, that are just a giant battery, and you could hook that battery up to this and expand the capacity of this. Now, on the left-hand side, again, if you're looking from the front and you flip open this little tab, you will see that there are 3 different connectors. You'll definitely be using these at some point in time. The first one on the far left is a 110 wall input. This is how you're gonna charge this from the wall. It comes with a normal charging cable It's a heavy duty cable, but if you have, you know, any sort of PC cable, I mean, this is a universal standard right here, but this is a heavy duty cable, and I do like that they've included that. That's how you're going to charge this from the wall. That's on the left. In the middle, this is your basically like a reset, like a surge protector. So if you plug something gigantic into this and it kicks the circuits, you're going to have to press that to reset the whole system. On the right is what is called a XT60 solar input right here. So it has a couple of different names, but if you have solar, you will see, you'll recognize this little connector that's on here. The input, it says it has a range of 12 to 150 volts, but 13 amps max. So if you are daisy chaining solar panels together, you don't want to exceed 150 volts, but yeah, this is how you're going to charge this through solar. So by default, this does not come with a way to charge this from a 12 volt system like inside your car. Now they do sell adapters, and if you buy enough adapters, you could go from like this solar connector to a DC 12 or something like that. But out of the box, you cannot be charged from a car 12 volt adapter. You can only charge this through 110 or solar. One of the things I really like about this is that it makes the popcorn that I remember from my childhood. I'm a very nostalgic person. If you've watched my trip where I went to the movie theater that they tore down, you'll know that I'm really nostalgic. And so I have a hot air popcorn popper, but you know, it makes hot air popcorn. So I've had hot air popcorn, I've had microwave popcorn, but this is the type of popcorn that they used to serve when I was a kid in elementary school. We would have movie days, we would have different school functions where you could buy popcorn. This really reminds me of that. These packs, I buy these off of Amazon, and they come in two parts. The popcorn's on one side and the butter is on the other. The butter and the oil, depending on how you store it, either stays in a big block or kind of liquefies. I've had mine out here in the workshop, so mine is kind of liquefied, but yeah, it looks like I got most of that in there. All we got to do now, lower the little magnetic top, shut the door, plugged in. Let's get her started. Now, as I lean in here closer, you may be able to hear the popcorn machine as it turns and cooks the kernels, but you'll also hear the fan on this unit that I was talking about. So it does, like I said, turn on and off. It is not completely silent, so ooh, I can hear them popcorn kernels turning. The popcorn machine is surprisingly efficient. It's using about 550 watts, which we could see on the screen here. My air popper used much more electricity. And one of the things to take into consideration is, as I mentioned, this will show you on the screen how many hours, days, minutes you have until it runs out at the current load. So I think this says it has about 50 hours until we run out. But here's the thing. I'm not going to cook this popcorn for 50 hours. I'm going to cook it for 5 minutes, you know? So it's not really, that information is only important for things that you're going to leave hooked up all the time. If you have just, let's say, a refrigerator hooked up and it says you can run for 2 hours or 2 days or something like that, then that's important. But for something like a microwave, you know, when I turn my microwave on, it says, whoa, you can only do this for 2 hours. Well, I'm not cooking a bowl of ramen noodles for 2 hours. I'm cooking it for 3 minutes. So it's important information, like I said, for long-term averages, but for short-term usages like this, it's not as important. And man, there is a breeze coming. And I could smell, it smells like my childhood. I had someone mention on one of my other videos that they don't like listening to people chew food on videos, so you might want to fast forward 5 seconds. Good popcorn. So as you can see on the display of the battery, we are down to 90% and we have 12 watts going out. That is a combination of charging the GoPro and also running the light that's on in the popcorn maker. So 90% just won't do. So let's plug this into the wall, see what kind of charge we could get going into this, and then we're gonna put it back into the van where it normally lives, hook it up to the solar and see what that looks like. Okay, so I have drug my heavy duty, this is a heavy duty extension cord that I purchased specifically for the van. This is the extension cord that I use whenever I go and plug into shore power into the van. And this is the cable that came with the unit. So we are going to flip up this. Now, I will tell you right now, as I'm looking at the phone, it tells me that we have about 111 watts going out. So the battery being used with a GoPro is very nominal. So this light bulb, it's a heat lamp to keep the popcorn warm. That's what's taking most of our power. So let's plug this in. We'll probably hear the fans kick on here in just a minute. Now, one thing I've noticed is that this takes a minute to shift things. Like when you first turn it on, it takes a minute before you'll start seeing the correct wattage on the screen. Sometimes it just takes a little bit. You can hear it now as I lean in closer. That's that fan kicking in. Again, I'm really just stressing the fact that it's there. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But we've got this plugged into the wall. We still have about 100 watts going out, and now on my phone, I'm showing about 800, a little over 800 watts coming in. So one thing that the AllPowers R2500 does that many of the name brand power stations do, but not all power stations, is that you can charge it while it's still charging other things. So it is bi-directional. You can have electricity coming in, it's still serving electricity going out. Not all power stations do that. Most of the big name brand ones do, but not all. So if that's important to you, and it should be important to you, you might want to check and make sure that the power station that you're looking at does that before purchasing it. Another thing that's important when you're looking at buying a power station is finding out how long it takes to charge that power station from 0 to 100%. Now, if you look on Amazon, it says that this one is able to be recharged fully in 1 hour. Good luck. The specifications to doing that are if you are able to get 1,000 watts of power from your wall and 1,000 watts of power from solar at the same time. So first of all, you have to have a massive solar setup to be able to do that. I have 200 watts of solar on the top of my van, and the best I've ever got is about 130 watts in. So if you have a giant series of solar panels, I mean, you're gonna have to have probably, I mean, I don't even know, but the bottom line is you have to have 1,000 watts actually coming in on a sunny day. That's pretty difficult to do, plus 1,000 watts from the wall. Now, I have mine plugged in with an extension cord right now, and with the cord that came with it, and we'll take a look, and I have 578 watts coming in right now, and that's plugged directly into my wall. So I should actually be getting more than that. I'm not sure why I'm not getting more than that. But the point being, that equation of charging it in 1 hour, that's with 2,000 watts coming in. So if I have 500 watts, a little over 500 watts coming in, you can do the math. It's gonna take 4 times that long. Now, it'll take less time if I were to unplug all this stuff, but point being is that it's gonna take a while. I would expect with nothing else plugged in and just plugged into a wall outlet, a little over 2 hours to fully charge this thing back up. And if you're doing it off of a solar panel that's not giving you as much electricity as a 110 outlet, it's gonna take even longer than that. So I would tamper your expectations a bit. I would not believe that 1 hour charge time. I would like to see somebody on YouTube charge one of these in 1 hour, because like I said, you got to have 1,000 watts of solar and 1,000 watts of regular AC electricity coming in at the same time, and that would be a pretty difficult feat to do. If you watch the build video when I built this table, you know that I built it to exactly fit this battery. So if I ever buy a battery that's bigger than this battery, I'm screwed. This, for the past 6 months, is where my R2500 has lived, down here underneath this spot I built. Now, I'm gonna wiggle this. Ugh. Wiggle is not the right term. Manhandle, perhaps. So I'm gonna show you a couple things that I have. The first thing is, I hooked my extension cord up to my shore power outlet. So normally, I always have my wall outlet plugged in. However, the first thing I'm going to do before I do that is I'm going to plug in only my solar. So this is, as I mentioned, a XT60 solar connector, which I will show you. That plugs into the side. I can see right now that my battery is at 95% with no watts coming in, no watts going out, and I have an AllPowers 200 watt solar panel, which by the way, I also purchased. They did not send me anything. And so let me plug that in down here first. We'll give the system just a second to recognize the panels. And now when I'm looking down, I can see that I have 130 watts coming in. Now again, that is basically the best I've ever actually had. 135, 136. That's the highest I've ever seen this 200 watt solar panel perform. So I get about 2/3 efficiency out of my solar panel, and that is one that is mounted flat on the roof of a vehicle. So if you have it pointed at 45 degrees at the sun, you could probably get a little bit more, but for me, for a permanent mount, I get about 2/3. So again, to get 1,000 watts of input in here, I'd have to have 1,500 watts of solar panels. Just not feasible on a vehicle this size. But I am getting 130, 135 watts in. So if you think about during the day, you're charging your phone, you're running small USB appliances, even running my refrigerator, things like that, we're gonna have more than a net balance of 0, right? So I'm gonna have more coming in than going out. Now, as I showed you, I hooked up the extension cord to my shore power, and I always leave this plugged in to the side of the battery, because that way, when I'm plugging in, or when I get home, if the battery is low, I could just plug in my shore power extension cord to the back of the van, and I could charge this up really quickly. Now again, if you recall, like I said on that on the promotional information, they say you can charge this in 1 hour, and that's it, with 2,000 watts coming in. I'm plugging in from an extension cord, and I'm plugging in from solar right now, and I am getting just over 500 watts. Of course, I'm going to lose a little bit because of the extension cord and stuff like that, but no way will this charge up in an hour. But it would charge up, within a couple of hours, something like that. So not bad, but something to keep in mind. Now I'm going to show you the 4 things that I plug in and leave plugged into my battery all the time. Down here, I have 2 extension cords, a 12-volt adapter for my refrigerator, and another 12-volt adapter for my Max Air fan. The other thing that I try to do is some very basic cable management. So I tuck those cables underneath. I put it on one of these little foam mats. These are the mats that if you have a standing desk, people stand on. I found these on Amazon for less than $10 each. They may not be the best, but they're good enough for a battery. So I put it under the battery just in case, all the bumping and stuff that you hit when you're driving. I thought it would take a little bit of the force out of the battery. And I kind of tuck those cables under the edge of those mats so that it just routes them out of the way. Now, why do I hook those extension cords up? And the reason is because I have them routed up on top of my table, so I can more easily access the ports. You know, because the battery is down here, I mean, it's not that difficult to get to, but I have a TV and I have a USB. I have lots of USB things up here, and I like to plug my phone in, and I don't always want to be reaching under the table and getting down here to get to everything. So with these extension cords up here, I have outlets in multiple places. So I don't have a conventional build where I have wall outlets and wires running through the walls and everything. I run everything off of this battery and then these extension cords to get power to other parts of the van. So I have a white extension cord that I have up here on top of my desk that has 8 outlets. I've never used all those outlets at the same time, but it has 8 110 outlets and 4 USB outlets. So very, very convenient. I can sit there and I can plug my phone, or if I need to charge something, I can do it right up here. I don't have to do it down here on the battery. Now, this is where I mentioned that these adapters come in handy, because as you saw, I now have my refrigerator plugged into the 12-volt port. I have my Max Air fan plugged into one of the small DC ports, and that only leaves me with one DC port, and it's one of the small ones. So I can use this, plug it into that, and plug in another DC powered 12-volt item. And all those have the exact same rating. People think, oh, the smaller one may be less. It's not. They're all 12-volt and 10 amps. So anything you can run off the big one, you can run off the small ones. Now, I am a creature of comfort. I am not one of these people that's into super roughing it. I do like going to the lake. I do like going camping. But at night, I like all my conveniences. I like my fan. I like my lights. I like my phone. I like my internet. And I like my television. So I put a television in my van, and on my television I have a Roku, I have a small device, a Raspberry Pi that plays video games, and I have a digital TV antenna. I'm not going to show you all of those items, but here's what I do want to show you. I'm going to turn on my power strip. We're going to get that stuff turned on, and I just want to show you, just from that stuff alone, how much power that takes. Actually, how little power that takes. So the white power strip that I showed that plugs into my power station, that is this power strip. Again, this has power outlets all the way around the edges and on the top and on the side. As you can see, it's got these USB ports. So the TV plugs into that. I mentioned that I have a Roku and a digital TV antenna. Those are both plugged into USB ports actually on the TV. And then this is a light that, if you watch my last video, that we got from the from Ollie's, and that is also USB. Probably won't stay here. We're not going to turn that on for the test, but let's go ahead and turn the television on. We've got everything else turned on. I'm going to unplug the refrigerator just for this test. So now we've got power to that. We've got power to the Raspberry Pi. We've got power to the Roku. Let me switch over to the input real quick. So this is my whole entertainment center. Again, I also have a wireless router that I can run off of my phone so that all this stuff gets internet access. But again, we've got the TV, we've got the Roku, we've got a Raspberry Pi hooked up to play games, and we have a digital TV antenna. Those things are all plugged in and all turned on right now. And as I look at my battery, we are drawing 6 watts of power. Now, where one of the real draws comes is my refrigerator, and this is a 12-volt cable. We're going to plug that back in. And remember, we're drawing 6 volts right now from the TV. And again, that will take just a minute for the fridge to kick in. But I have my refrigerator. It is a bi-compartment, dual compartment, where you could set one side as a freezer, one as a fridge, but I have both sides set as a refrigerator, and I have it set at 45 degrees, and I have it set in eco mode. And now I have jumped from the 6 watts that we had to 61 watts. So, you know, the fridge takes a little bit. When it kicks in, it will cycle back and forth and go back on. But so the TV, the entertainment center, that kind of stuff just doesn't take that much. Oh my gosh, I forgot that we're running the Max Air fan too. So let's see, I'm at, the fridge has settled back down. I'm at 52 watts. Let's turn the Max Air fan off. It was on the lowest setting anyway. and it just jumped from 53 down to 43. So 43 right now, 42, that's what I'm getting with the refrigerator and my entertainment stuff set on. So what's the bottom line? Do I recommend this unit? Well, here's what I will say. First of all, it is a 2,000 watt hour battery, and that's a lot. A lot of the entry level power stations are 1,000 or less, which I think is enough for most people to get by if you're not doing multi-day trips. I had a 1,000 watt battery before this one, which I will be reviewing in the near future. And, you know, it got me by, right? Like, it would get me by a day or two. Really, the refrigerator and the CPAP are the things that really pushed me over the edge to want to upgrade to a higher battery. So 2,000 watt hours is a lot. I don't think I mentioned that it has a 4,000 watt peak. So if you're using a tool or generator, something that takes more, a refrigerator that would take more than 2,000, it will ramp up to that for short periods of time before going back down. So this is a really, you know, medium to high level. I mean, this is not a beginner starter battery, not because it's complicated, just because it's you know, it's pretty big. Retail price on this battery was $16.99 on Amazon. Now, Amazon is constantly running sales on this. Right now, I believe it's a 40% sale, which puts it just under $1,000. It's like $9.99 or $9.90 or something like that. That's a little bit less than what I paid. And the going rate for a long time for these power stations was $1 per watt hour. So, you know, the Jackeries had a 200 watt one that was $200. They had a 500 watt one that was $500. And when I bought my first 1,000 watt one, it was $1,000. So this one is over 2,000 watts and only $9.90 on sale or whatever. So that is a really, really good deal if you need this much battery. If you don't need this much battery, then you could probably save some money and buy a smaller unit. But you know, I see a lot of van life people have multiple batteries. They've got this one and they got this one, and I think it's probably either because they got them sent to them for free, or they bought a smaller one, then they needed a bigger one, so then they bought another one, then they needed a bigger one than that, they bought a bigger one, you know. So you know, I just decided to do it all at one time, buy one big Mamma Jamma battery that goes in here. Now, here's the one thing I will say to a battery that's this size. This is not super portable. As you saw, I struggled getting it in here. It's 65 to 70 pounds. It's not super convenient to pull in and out of the van to carry around. It's not really something, I mean, if you want to, you know, pull it out at a campsite to put it on a picnic table or something like that, that's fine. But I wouldn't carry something like this in Starbucks to try to charge it or something like that. I'd save that for the smaller units. So, you know, when it comes to portability or whatever, maybe a little bit of a thumbs down, but for running everything in this van, double thumbs up. I absolutely love it. I like that I could go now for a full weekend. I don't have to worry about charging, but if I do, I've got that solar panel on the top that hopefully will save me. But I can run my CPAP, I can run my refrigerator, I can do all those things and not have to worry about, you know, running out of juice. So I give it a thumbs up. I do have a link down in the bottom in my description down there. If you want to click on that, it doesn't cost you anything extra, and I'd probably make a couple bucks if you buy this through Amazon. The reason that I'm able to afford van life things like this is because of patrons, people that join my Patreon page, of people who have bought me a coffee. So everyone who has supported BigRobsVan through Patreon or buy me a coffee or just liking and subscribing, the channel's getting really close to getting monetized. And, you know, so all that stuff helps to fund things like $1,000 batteries for the van. So, hey, I appreciate you for watching and coming along with these adventures. The reason I'm out here in the van is because tonight, it's Friday night, and I have a little adventure planned later on, which you'll be seeing probably on Sunday. So let me blow out this USB light. It was so cheesy that I didn't have anything else planned. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. What a great day for birds to show up. This thing is super. Do, 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 do. Metropolis, Illinois. Great place to visit. Hey GoPro, start recording.